Okay, guys, we're going to get started with reading. We're starting a new unit of study. And so if you need to get your reading notebook out and go to your teaching points section, and because of my time limit, I'm just going to write this real fast. You'll only have one thing to write today, this our teaching point, and then I'm going to model for you and give you some things to work on during reading workshop time. So this unit is Unit 8, and it is Understanding Nonfiction Text through multiple strategies. And this is a long unit for us, so we will be in this unit for a lot. And you can do readers, ... And today, readers are going to recognize elements. That's elements is like pieces, what makes it up, pieces, things put together of literary nonfiction. This is actually not even the way the teaching point is written out, but it's close enough. If the board will say something different probably once I get to it. So if you want to write what's on the board, that's fine. If you want to use that one, I don't really care. We're looking at literary nonfiction. Literary, the thing about literary, all it is it's a book. That means literary is we're talking about literature. We're talking about books. We're talking about magazines. We're talking about some kind of information done in print. We have our fiction. See, this is literary nonfiction. Fiction is not true. If you do just fiction, but nonfiction, this whole part is true. Okay, so it's stories that are based on facts. Now, literary nonfiction is a story. It's not like our informational text we'll get to. It's a story that is facts. It's based on a real event or real people. Okay, does that make sense? Or real things. Does that make sense? Hopefully. All right. Put that away, or you can put it aside. And I'm going to read a book to you. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to read I won't read the whole thing today. I'm just going to get started today and then I'll finish it tomorrow. But it's Stubby, the Dog Soldier, World War I Hero. I'm going to use this book because this is a story. This is a literary nonfiction book about this dog Stubby. And then I will show you how he shows up in an informational text, a nonfiction text that's more of our true nonfiction text. So Stubby, the Dog Soldier, World War I Hero. And you're going to see how this is going to feel like a fiction story. It's going to feel like a book that we would have read. Hopefully the camera will focus. I don't know why it's not focusing. I'm going to pause it and see if I can fix that. Okay, there. It was about lighting. All right, World War I, 1914 to 1918, was raging across Europe. The Central Powers, led by Germany, had attacked the Allied powers, which included France, Great Britain, and Russia. In April of 1970, the United States entered the war siding with the Allies. Private J. Robert Conroy came to New Haven, Connecticut. He was training in the 102nd Infantry Regiment in the Army's 26th Yankee Division. That's just a lot of talk about. I'm not even understanding all these ranks and things, but it's just talking about people who are in the Army, soldiers. A young dog was often seen trotting proudly behind Private Conroy. The shabby stray had been shadowing him for weeks, ever since Conroy had tossed the pup a few scraps to eat. One day, Conroy brought his canine friend back to his barracks. He made a bed for him under his bunk. Now remember, this is a true story. It's based on a real events. Now some of it might be made up a little bit, like the bed underneath. We don't know some of those facts unless it was pulled from a journal of this Private Conroy, but it is made up. I mean, it is a factual book, but it's made up to read like a story. The young pup watched as the soldiers talked excitedly. Dogs aren't allowed in here, one said, and another asked, "What's his name?" Conroy replied, "Stubby, because of his stubby tail." Stubby slept in the barracks and ate with the men. He even took part in training drills. Conroy trained him to follow commands. During the summer of 1917, the soldiers of the 26th headed overseas. They were going to war. Not wanting to leave Stubby behind, Conroy snuck him aboard the ship. After arriving in France, a commanding officer spotted Stubby. Dogs weren't allowed on the battlefield, but Stubby was no ordinary pooch. He raised one paw in salute. The officer was impressed and made Stubby the Yankee Division mascot. Soldiers from the 26th were among the first U.S. soldiers to hear the war. To enter the war, What they saw horrified them. The land was torn apart. Lines of injured soldiers were carried off the battlefield. Early in 1918, the 26th reached the Chemin des Dames. In this dangerous area of France, Stubby and Conroy saw their first action. They hunkered down in the trenches along the front lines. Bullets whizzed overhead. Shells thudded nearby. But there was one danger far more terrifying. Let me see Stubby there. One morning, as the soldiers of the 26th slept, a yellow fog rolled in. It moved west, blowing from enemy lines. The fog drifted across no man's land and toward their trenches. Stubby lifted his nose. A deadly scent tainted the air. What we know about dogs is their scent is very, very strong, their ability to scent things out. Stubby jumped up and ran to the top of the trench. He barked and howled, trying to wake the sleeping soldiers. They were exhausted. Gunfire had kept them up all night. Y'all feel how this is like a story with suspense, and it's building and building and building? As Conroy blinked his eyes, Stubby darted under a pile of blankets. All that could be seen of him was his stubby tail. Then Conroy realized the danger. Mustard gas was spilling into the trenches. It had been hidden by the morning fog. "Gas, gas, gas," they cried. The cry went out. Men grabbed respirator masks as poisonous fumes clawed their lungs. The gas burned their skin and eyes. Some soldiers suffered from the gas attack, but no one died. Stubby had saved the day, and no one would ignore his warnings again. I'm going to stop right there, and we'll keep on going about some other things of Stubby. But just want you to know that we have literary nonfiction in your black baskets of resource baskets that are on each of your resource desks. I have put enough books for each one of you to grab and use a literary nonfiction text today. You can read the text through. You can read the whole thing. You can just look at some of the pictures. But I want you to read it. Read it and be thinking about, okay, how is this true but written like a story? And then tomorrow we'll get into a little bit more with literary nonfiction, and then we'll be moving into informational text. So enjoy reading one of those books. You can use that for your Who's Reading, your reading today, and then doing a Who's Reading question with it. And I'll be pulling small groups as always. Have a wonderful day.